I've always believed I was the kind of woman who kept families together. The kind who remembered birthdays, baked for the neighbors, and made sure no one ever left her house hungry. My name's Rosa. Rosa Bennett. 62 years old, mother of one, and a retired clockmaker. Funny thing, spending your life surrounded by ticking clocks, you start measuring your memories in seconds instead of years. After my husband passed, the house felt like a museum. Quiet, clean, and painfully still. I'd walk past his old chair and still imagine him sitting there, reading the paper, pretending not to fall asleep. I'd make 2 cups of tea out of habit, and then smile at myself like a fool before pouring one down the sink. For a while, that was my world, clocks and silence. Then Ethan met Amy. He called me one Sunday, his voice brighter than it had been in years. "Mom, I met someone," he said. I could hear that spark, that smile that hides in your voice when you're in love. I remember feeling a flutter in my chest. My boy, my sweet, lonely boy, had found someone. And when I met her, I'll admit, she took my breath a little. Not because of her beauty, though she was beautiful, but because of how confidently she carried herself. She was polite, cheerful, and she had this way of making everyone feel seen. And she came with a little girl, about 9, with curls that bounced when she laughed. That child called me Miss Rosa at first. Miss Rosa, like I was her school teacher. But it didn't take long before it became Grandma. Oh, how that word melted me. Grandma Daruai. After years of silence, I had laughter in my kitchen again. Crayons on my table, spilled milk, hugs that smelled like cotton candy and crayons. I felt needed. I felt alive. I tried to be everything for them. The helpful one, the kind one, the one who never complains. When Amy got a new job, I babysat for weeks. When their car broke down, I helped with the repairs. Not because they asked, but because that's what love does, right? It shows up without being asked. And when Amy found out she was pregnant, oh, I could have shouted it from the rooftops. My first grandbaby. I was there for every appointment I was invited to, cooked her soups when she was too tired to move, massaged her swollen feet once. She laughed and said, "Rosa, you're spoiling me." I told her, "That's the point, honey." I thought we were a family. Not a perfect one, but one stitched together by care. Then one afternoon, while I was helping fold tiny clothes for the baby, Amy mentioned the gender reveal party. I smiled and said, "Oh, I'd love to help. Maybe I can make the cake or decorations." And before I could finish, she looked up and said softly, "Oh, Rosa, I think we're just keeping it small. You know, family only." I don't think she meant to hurt me. Maybe she didn't even think twice. But those 2 words, family only, they hit like a whisper that cut straight through my heart. I laughed it off, of course. "Oh, sure, I understand." But when I got home, I sat in my car for 10 whole minutes before I could step inside. My hands were shaking, but not from anger, from disbelief. I sat down at my workbench, surrounded by all those clocks ticking away, and for the first time in years, I hated the sound. Tick, tick, tick. Like a reminder that kindness doesn't guarantee belonging. And I thought maybe I've been trying too hard to be loved by people who already decided where I belong. But still, that night as I stared at the half-finished clock before me, something inside me began to turn. A small, deliberate click. The sound of a woman's heart locking into resolve. And I remember whispering to myself, with a bitter little smile, if they think I'm an outsider, maybe it's time I show them what an outsider really looks like. You ever notice how silence can be louder than words? After that day, the house felt like it was holding its breath. I'd wake up, make my tea, and just sit there at the table, staring at the steam rising, pretending everything was fine. But inside I was cracking in places no one could see. Amy didn't mean to sound cruel. I told myself that again and again. Maybe she was stressed. Maybe she just wanted a small gathering. Maybe she didn't even realize what she said. But the thing about words, once they leave someone's mouth, they echo. And they find corners in your heart to settle into, like dust you can never sweep away. I still saw Ethan, of course. He'd drop by for coffee after work sometimes, always smiling, always talking about how busy things were. I'd ask about Amy, about the baby, and he'd say, "She's doing great, Mom." Always great. I could tell there were things he didn't say. Not because he wanted to hide them, but because men don't always see what's happening right in front of them. One night, he stopped by late. He sat at the table and told me about the nursery, how they were painting it, soft yellow. I smiled, tried to keep my voice light. "Yellow, that's lovely, gender neutral." He nodded, took another sip of coffee, then said quietly, "Amy's parents are flying in next week for the reveal. She's really excited." I nodded, swallowing the lump that rose in my throat. After he left, I stood in the doorway watching his car lights fade down the street. My eyes stung, but I didn't cry. I couldn't. I just whispered, "Family only," and the words left a taste in my mouth like rust. Days passed. Then weeks. No calls from Amy. No texts. The little girl. She didn't come over after school anymore. Maybe Amy didn't want to inconvenience me. Maybe she just didn't want me around. I started keeping busy, polishing clocks, fixing old ones I'd left unfinished. The ticking filled the space where laughter used to live. But at night, when everything went still, I'd hear the echo of that little voice calling me, "Grandma," and it would break me. I'd smile in the dark, remembering the way she hugged me goodbye that last time. So tight, like she didn't want to let go. One afternoon, I found myself in front of the baby clothes I'd been knitting. Tiny socks, little caps. I held one up between my fingers, soft, yellow wool, and laughed, but not from joy. A small, bitter laugh. "Guess these won't be needed," I whispered. My voice cracked halfway through, and suddenly the laugh turned into something else. A sound I hadn't made in years. Not quite sobbing, but something heavier. Something lonelier. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, something I rarely did. I sat at my workbench, lamp flickering over the scattered gears. The clocks ticked like they were mocking me again. Tick, tick, tick. Family only, family only, family only. I closed my eyes and thought, maybe Amy was right. Maybe I'd tried to fit myself into a place that was never mine to begin with. But deep down, a smaller voice whispered, "No, Rosa, you made that place. You earned it with every meal, every night you stayed up babysitting, every kindness you gave without being asked. And if they can't see that, maybe they need to feel what it's like when your warmth disappears." I didn't know it yet, but that night was the start of something. Not revenge, no body-o. Something colder. Something like realization. And as the wine burned down my throat, I said out loud to no one, "If kindness can't earn respect." I let the words linger. They felt strange, heavy, but honest. The next morning, I started writing. A list at first. People. Names. The will. The trust I'd set up for the baby, the savings I'd built through years of work. I'd been planning to surprise them at the reveal. To tell everyone I was leaving something behind for both children. Because love, to me, never came with conditions. But now, sitting there with that list in front of me, something inside me clicked again. My pen hovered over the page, and I smiled a tired, quiet smile. Maybe it's time they learned what it means to call me an outsider. And as the ink dried on that paper, I realized I wasn't shaking anymore. It's strange, the calm that comes right before you do something that'll change everything. And that calm, it scared me more than my sadness ever did. The next few days passed like fog, soft, shapeless, heavy. I woke up early as always, boiled the kettle, poured myself tea that went cold before I ever drank it. The house had that stillness, you know? The kind where even the clocks sound hesitant to tick. I spent hours in the workshop, adjusting gears, polishing brass faces that already shone. I wasn't really fixing anything. I think I was just trying to fix myself. But that list on my desk kept staring at me. The one with their names. Ethan, Amy, the baby, the little girl. My sister's son, my old neighbor, the local library I'd donated to every year. I'd written them all down in neat, even letters. Then I'd drawn a line through one of them. Amy's name. Just once. Then again. And again. Until the paper nearly tore. I remember the sound of it, pen scratching through ink, through kindness, through patience. It wasn't anger. It was finality. That night, Ethan called. "Hey, Mom," he said, cheerful as always. We're thinking of having a little pre-reveal dinner, just close family. You up for it? I froze. The word family again. I managed a soft chuckle, the kind that hides hurt like it's a secret. Oh, I wouldn't want to intrude, I said. He hesitated. Mom, don't be silly. I mean it, I whispered. Amy's parents will be there, right? And her sister? Yeah, but that doesn't... It's okay, honey. You go, have fun. I could hear him frown through the phone, that small pause when words start to wobble. Mom, are you sure? I smiled into the empty room. I'm sure. After he hung up, I just sat there, phone still in my hand. I could feel my heartbeat in my fingers. Not from sadness this time. From resolve. There's something dangerous about a woman who's loved too much for too long. She starts realizing she doesn't owe anyone her softness. The next morning, I visited the lawyer's office. A sweet man named Harold. Been handling my papers for years. He smiled as I walked in. Rosa, good to see you again. Planning ahead as usual, huh? I smiled back. Something like that, Harold. We sat down, went through documents, the usual chatter. Then I slid the folded paper across the desk. I want to make some changes, I said quietly. He nodded, professional as always. To the trust? Yes, to everything. He adjusted his glasses. Understood. You'd like to redistribute? Yes. I leaned back, folded my hands. But this time, to people who actually see me. He blinked. Pardon? I smiled, a slow, tired smile. You'll understand when you see the list. He didn't ask questions after that. Just nodded, took notes. And when I left, the sunlight hit my face like it was touching me for the first time in months. Walking home, I passed a little boy selling flowers by the road. A handful of daisies wilted at the edges. How much for one? I asked. $2, he said, shy but hopeful. I gave him 5. Keep the change. He grinned, missing a front tooth, and handed me a single daisy. For your smile, he said. And just like that, I felt something warm stir in my chest again. I tucked the flower into my bag and thought, maybe that's who deserves it. Someone who gives without measuring first. That night, I sat by my window, the daisy and a cup of water beside me, watching the stars blink faintly over the rooftops. The clocks ticked around me like a soft orchestra of time. And I said to myself, if love is a currency, then I've spent mine wisely, just not always on the right people. I'll let that sink in. The house didn't feel empty anymore. Just quiet. Peaceful, almost. Because for the first time in a long while, I wasn't waiting for anyone to call. I wasn't hoping for an invitation. I wasn't building bridges that only I ever walked across. I was just being. And in that stillness, something inside me whispered, now, Rosa, let's see what silence can teach them. I smiled faintly. The clocks ticked on. And I finally took my first deep breath in months. Steady, calm, unbroken. The next morning I made my tea, took a sip, and for the first time, it was still warm. A week passed before anyone noticed I'd gone quiet. Isn't that something? A mother stops calling and the world doesn't tremble, not right away. At first, there were texts. Small, scattered ones. Hey Mom, you okay? Mom, did you see the pictures we posted? Then, nothing. I didn't ignore them out of spite. No. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about peace, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. I still woke up early, made my tea, sat by the window. The world outside kept moving. Kids rushed to school, buses honked, the same dog barked at the same cat every morning. Life was so stubbornly normal. But inside me, something had changed. You see, silence is a strange teacher. It starts softly, like a hum under the skin. Then it grows, echoing in the places where noise used to live. You start to hear things you never noticed before, your own heartbeat, your breath, your thoughts whispering truths you used to drown in chatter. I realized that for years I'd filled my world with other people's voices, their needs, their complaints, their endless little demands. And mine? Mine was always the quiet one, the voice that said, it's okay, I'll handle it. Now, I let that voice breathe. 3 weeks later, Ethan showed up. I could hear his car before I saw it. That same low hum, the same screech of tires against the gravel. I didn't rush to the door. Not this time. I waited until he knocked. "Mom." His voice was softer than I remembered. I opened the door, smiled politely. "Ethan, what a surprise." He frowned. "I've been calling you." "I know." "And texting." "I saw." There was that awkward pause, the kind that sits heavy between two people who suddenly realize they don't know how to talk anymore. He looked around the workshop, his eyes catching on the clocks, the tools, the familiar smell of oil and wood. "You've been working a lot," he said. "I always do," I replied. He rubbed the back of his neck. "Amy's been worried. We thought maybe you were upset." I chuckled softly. "No, dear, I'm not upset. Just quiet." "Yes." I leaned on the doorway. "It's something new I'm trying. It's called peace." He blinked at me, confused. "Mom, are you sure you're okay?" I smiled. "I'm better than I've been in years." That's when he noticed the daisy on my windowsill, still alive somehow, though wilted at the edges. "What's with the flower?" he asked. "A gift," I said. "From someone who saw me." He laughed nervously. "Mom, you're talking strange." "Maybe," I said softly. "Or maybe I'm finally talking right." He sat down, exhaled. "I just don't want you to feel alone." "Oh, Ethan," I whispered. "I've been alone in rooms full of people. You can't make me feel what I've already survived." He looked down. No comeback. No defense. Just silence. My silence, mirrored in his face. He stayed for a while, sipping tea he didn't really like, asking questions he didn't really want answers to. Before he left, he hugged me. But this time I didn't hold on first. After he drove off, I stood by the window again. The daisy leaned toward the last of the afternoon sun, and I swear it looked proud, like it knew it had survived something. That night, I wrote in my journal. Silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes it means the presence of everything that was missing before. And as I set my pen down, I smiled, a quiet, knowing smile, because I could already feel it. The weight of my silence pressing gently on their hearts. And deep down I knew this was only the beginning. The clocks kept ticking. Each second sounded like a whisper saying, "They'll understand soon." It started with small things. A missed call here, an unreturned text there. You think you can ignore it? You think time will make it fade? But guilt, oh, guilt has a funny way of echoing louder the longer it's ignored. Ethan began stopping by more often, pretending he was in the neighborhood. Amy would send the occasional message, polite but careful, like she was stepping on glass. "Hope you're doing okay, Rosa. The baby's kicking a lot now. Would love for you to see the nursery sometime." And I just stared at those words on my phone screen, feeling something complicated. Pride? Pain? Maybe both. Sometimes I'd whisper to myself, "Now you remember I exist." And then, almost as if to calm my own heart, I'd add, "But it's too late." Still, I wasn't made of stone. When Ethan told me they were planning the baby's room, my heart ached in that familiar way, the kind that makes you want to pick up the phone and say, "I'll be right over." But no, not this time. Instead, I busied myself in my workshop, fixing clocks no one asked me to fix. There's something peaceful about the sound of ticking, constant, loyal, unjudging. Each tick felt like a small heartbeat reminding me, "You're still here." One afternoon, I was polishing an old brass frame when I heard a faint knock. I opened the door to find a small, trembling voice saying, "Grandma Rosa." It was Lily, Amy's daughter from her first marriage. 9 years old, all freckles and wide eyes. She held a cupcake box like it was treasure. "Mom said I could come by," she said quickly. "I told her I missed you." My throat tightened. "You did, huh?" She nodded eagerly. "You used to pick me up from school. I don't like when you don't come anymore." I smiled. Oh, it was the softest smile, the kind that aches. "Come in the eye." We sat at the workbench together and she asked, "Why don't you come over now?" I took a deep breath, trying not to let my voice shake. "Sometimes, Lily, grown-ups hurt each other without meaning to. And when that happens, we need time to heal." She frowned, clearly trying to make sense of words too big for her small world. So, when you're done healing, can you come back? That question, it went straight to my heart. I reached for her tiny hand, squeezing it gently. Maybe, I said softly, if everyone's ready to listen this time. Before she left, she slipped a folded note into my hand. It was a crayon drawing. Me, her, Ethan, Amy, and a baby with a big smile. Of it, she'd written in shaky letters, family. When she ran down the path, I stood there for a long time, the paper trembling between my fingers. That one word, family, it hit me harder than I expected. I sat back down at my table, staring at the daisy on my windowsill. It had lost a few petals, but it was still reaching for the light. And maybe I was too. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Lily's voice in my head, innocent, hopeful. Can you come back? I wanted to. Oh, I wanted to. But love, once cracked, doesn't seal overnight. Still, something had shifted. The silence I'd chosen no longer felt heavy. It was turning into something else. Something waiting. Something soft. As I drifted off, I caught myself whispering a small prayer I hadn't said in months. Please let them understand my heart before it's too late. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe they would. Because guilt, when mixed with love, always finds its way home. It was a Sunday morning, quiet, sun spilling through the curtains, dust floating like tiny stars in the golden light. I was halfway through my tea when I heard it, that knock. Not hurried, not timid, just steady, 3 soft taps. I froze. You ever get that feeling when your heart recognizes someone before your mind does? That was me. I didn't need to look. I knew. When I opened the door, there she was, Amy. She looked different, not in the obvious way pregnancy changes a woman, but in her eyes, softer, maybe. Tired but humble. Her hands rested protectively over her belly. And for the first time, she wasn't wearing that polite, strained smile. Rosa, she said quietly, can we talk? Oh, I wanted to say no. My pride, my bruised little ego, they both screamed, don't you dare make it easy. But then I looked at her, really looked, and something inside me just melted. I nodded. Come in. She hesitated before stepping inside, scanning the room like she was afraid of what she might find. The clocks ticked softly around us, each one marking the seconds of an awkward silence. I know I hurt you, she began. I shouldn't have said what I said. It was cruel, and I don't even know why I did it. Her voice cracked, and she blinked hard. Maybe I felt like the baby shower was the one thing I could control. Everyone's been telling me what to do, how to feel, what to eat. I wanted something that was mine. I stayed quiet, letting her speak. Sometimes words need space to fall apart before they make sense. But I was wrong, she continued, her voice trembling. Your family, Rosa. You've always been. You were there when I couldn't pay rent, when Lily was sick, when I felt like everything was falling apart. And I threw that away like it meant nothing. I felt tears sting my eyes. You called me an outsider, I whispered. Her face crumpled. I know, and I hate myself for it. She took a step closer. Ethan told me about the trust you were setting up. I didn't know, Rosa. If I had... I cut her off softly. It wasn't about the money, Amy. It never was. It was about love, being seen. She wiped her cheeks, nodding. I see you now. And in that moment, just for a second, I believed her. We stood there, 2 women, both broken in our own ways, both trying to piece together a bridge that pride had burned. After a while, she smiled faintly. The baby's due next month. We'd love for you to be there, if you want to. Oh, my heart. It wanted to leap out of my chest. But I had kept my tone steady. I'll think about it. She nodded, accepting that maybe forgiveness had its own pace. Before leaving, she turned back and said softly, Lily misses you, so do I. When the door closed behind her, I sank into my chair, trembling. The room felt different, lighter somehow, like it had exhaled after months of holding its breath. I looked at the daisy again. 1 petal left, still clinging, still alive. I chuckled under my breath. You stubborn little thing, I murmured. Guess we're the same. That night, I sat under the dim glow of my desk lamp, hands wrapped around a cup of tea that had gone cold. For the first time since that awful day, I whispered out loud, "Maybe, just maybe, it isn't over yet." And somewhere deep inside, beneath all the hurt and pride, a small warmth flickered back to life, the first sign of hope. But hope, as I was about to learn, can be a fragile thing. Because the call I got next changed everything. It was 2:13 a.m. when the phone rang. You know that kind of call that rips you from sleep and shakes something deep in your chest before you even answer? Yeah, that one. My hands trembled as I reached for the phone. Hello? It was Ethan. His voice was thick, rushed, panicked. Mom, it's Amy. Her water broke early. We're at the hospital. I didn't know who else to call. For a heartbeat, I couldn't speak. My mind spun. The past, the silence, that one broken sentence. Don't come, it's for family only. But this wasn't about pride. This was life happening. Raw, real, uncontrollable. I didn't even realize I was out of bed. My slippers barely touched the floor as I threw on my coat, keys jingling, heart pounding so loud I could hear it over the wind outside. The hospital lights were too bright, the kind that hum and flicker like they know something you don't. I saw Ethan pacing near the waiting room, his face pale, his eyes wild. When he saw me, something in him broke. "Mom," he whispered, and then he hugged me. Not the kind of hug you give out of politeness. No, this one was desperate, trembling, real. "She's in there," he said, his voice cracking. "They said there's a complication. The baby's heart rate dropped." Oh my God. My knees almost gave out. I gripped his arms, whispering, "She'll be fine. She has to be fine." Minutes felt like hours. I prayed. I cried silently. I stared at the floor tiles until they blurred. And then, that sound. That tiny, beautiful, earth-shaking sound. A baby's cry. I gasped, covering my mouth. Ethan turned toward the doors, tears already streaming down his face. When the nurse walked out, smiling softly, I swear my heart stopped. "Both are fine," she said. "It was close, but they're okay." Ethan's shoulders collapsed in relief. I could barely breathe. I whispered a thank you to no one and everyone all at once. When they let me in, I saw Amy lying in the bed, pale, exhausted, but glowing in a way that made her look almost unreal. She was holding the tiniest little bundle, wrapped in a soft blue blanket. Her eyes met mine. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. She just held the baby out slightly, a silent invitation. My legs felt weak as I stepped closer. I looked down, and there he was, my grandson. So small, so fragile, yet somehow more powerful than any force I'd ever known. "Hi, little one," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I'm your grandma." His fingers curled around mine. Impossibly tiny, impossibly strong. And just like that, every wall I had built, every bit of hurt, every ounce of pride, it all just dissolved. Amy reached for my hand. "Rosa," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you for coming." I couldn't answer. My throat burned. I just nodded because words would have ruined the moment. Ethan leaned in beside me, resting his head against mine. And for the first time in what felt like forever, we were three hearts beating in the same rhythm again. The nurse smiled and whispered, "What's his name?" Amy looked at Ethan, then back at me. "Michael," she said softly. "After my father and yours." My breath hitched. My father's name. The man who taught me how to love with my hands, how to fix what's broken, how to forgive without words. I laughed. A shaky, wet laugh, and whispered, "He's perfect." That night, holding that tiny life in my arms, I realized something. Forgiveness isn't about saying. It's about moments like this, when love is louder than pain. But I didn't know the storm wasn't over yet. Because when joy returns, it often brings shadows with it. And one shadow from the past was about to find its way back to my door. A week after Michael was born, I felt like I was living in some fragile dream, one that could shatter if I breathed too hard. Every morning I'd wake up and whisper, "He's here," just to remind myself it wasn't something my heart had made up to soothe itself. Ethan called every day. Amy sent pictures, blurry, beautiful little snapshots of soft cheeks and tiny yawns. For the first time in months, my house felt alive again. I'd sit in my workshop, clocks ticking all around me, and think, maybe we're really healing. Maybe all those years of love, all the tears, the silence, maybe they were leading right here, to this tiny heartbeat that made everything worth it. But peace never stays untested, does it? That morning, as I stepped outside to water my plants, I saw an envelope on the porch. No name, just Rosa written in soft handwriting. Amy's. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside was a folded note and a photograph. The photo, it was of the three of them. Ethan holding the baby, Amy smiling, Lily standing beside them with her gap-toothed grin. A perfect little family portrait. And for a second, I smiled too. Until I read the letter. Dear Rosa, I wanted to thank you for being there that night. I'll never forget the look on your face when you saw him for the first time. I'm sorry again for everything I said and did. I hope one day we can truly start over. But I also need to be honest with you. Ethan and I talked, and we've decided to take some space for now. We want to build our own rhythm as a family before involving too many people. I hope you understand this isn't out of anger. It's just what feels right for us at the moment. Please know we love you, and you'll always be part of our lives. With love, Amy. Mirai. I read it twice, 3 times. Then I just sat down. The wind blew softly, rustling the paper in my hands. Ace, Ite. Such a simple word. Such a heavy thing. After everything, the tears, the forgiveness, the prayers, I was right back where I started. On the outside, looking in. I tried to tell myself it made sense. New parents need space. They're adjusting. But deep down, that little ache, that old ache, it whispered. You'll always be the outsider, Rosa. I laughed. Not the kind of laugh that comes from joy, but the brittle, broken kind that keeps you from screaming. Oh, life, I whispered, shaking my head. You really don't let me off easy, do you? That night I couldn't sleep. I walked into my workshop, turned on the lamp, and stared at the daisy by the window. It had finally withered, brown and limp, its last petal lying beside it. I whispered, guess that's that. But then, something caught my eye. A clock I hadn't touched in months. My father's old one. It had stopped right at 2:13, the same time Ethan called me the night Michael was born. I smiled faintly through the tears. All right, Dad, I whispered. I get it. Some things stop so others can begin. And I don't know what came over me, but I started to fix it. Carefully, slowly, I brought it back to life. The same way I had done for my heart all these years. Tick, tick, tick. Each sound felt like a promise. You're not done yet. As dawn broke through the window, painting everything in gold, I looked at that little photo again. That family, my family, and I realized something. They didn't push me away. They just didn't know how to bring me closer yet. Love doesn't vanish when people pull back. Sometimes it just hides, waiting for the right moment to be seen again. Still, as I set that letter aside, I couldn't help but whisper, how many times can a heart forgive before it forgets how? And somewhere deep inside, I knew this story wasn't finished. Because love, real love, always circles back. It had been months. The days had grown longer, the light softer, and the ache quieter. Rosa had learned how to fill her silence again. She would hum while polishing clock faces, talk to herself when something funny crossed her mind. You're losing it, Rosa, she'd chuckle. And every evening, she'd sit by the window and watch the sun paint gold across her empty garden. Sometimes she'd imagine Michael running there one day, chasing fireflies. Sometimes she'd imagine Amy waving from the porch, Ethan fixing something nearby. Little dreams, harmless ones, that made her heart both ache and glow. Then one evening, just as the sky dipped into amber and violet, there was a knock. A soft, hesitant knock. Rosa froze mid-step. Nobody knocked at her door anymore. Not at that hour. She wiped her hands on her apron, heart thudding. When she opened it, there stood Amy. Her hair was messy, her eyes tired, and in her arms, swaddled in a tiny blue blanket, was Michael. Hey, Amy said softly, her voice breaking like fragile glass. Can I come in? Rosa couldn't speak. She could only nod and step aside. Amy entered, looking around at the familiar space, the clocks, the warm light, the faint smell of oil and wood. Her lips trembled. "I miss this place," she whispered. Rosa finally found her voice. "You're always welcome here." Amy smiled faintly, but there was something deeper: guilt, love, exhaustion. She sat down, holding the baby close. Michael stirred a little, his tiny mouth opening in a yawn. Rosa's eyes filled immediately. Amy looked at her. "He knows your voice. I've been playing your recordings, the ones you made when I was pregnant, you remember?" Rosa gasped. You kept those?" Amy nodded. "Every single one. I'd play them when he wouldn't sleep, and somehow he'd calm down, every time." A shaky laugh escaped Rosa's lips. "Guess he knows his grandma already, huh?" Amy smiled through tears. "That's what I came to say. I can't do this without you. I thought I could, but I was wrong." Rosa blinked, her heart swelling and breaking all at once. "Oh, Amy?" Amy's voice cracked. "I thought giving you space would protect everyone, but it just hurt us more. I need you in his life. I need you in our life." And that's when Rosa reached out, trembling, cautious, and gently touched the baby's cheek. Warmth. Life. Ah, home. Michael opened his eyes for the first time, and she swore. He looked right into her soul. She laughed, a real laugh this time, through tears streaming freely down her face. "Oh, little one, you took your time, didn't you?" Amy started to cry too. "I'm sorry, Rosa, for everything." Rosa shook her head. "No, don't be. Life, it doesn't give us perfect timing. It just gives us second chances." The room filled with the gentle ticking of clocks, the faint sound of both women weeping and laughing at once, a strange, beautiful symphony. Then from outside the wind picked up, brushing through the open window, fluttering the curtains like a quiet blessing. Amy looked around, smiling. "You still have all of these clocks running?" Rosa grinned softly. "Every single one. They remind me that no matter how much time passes, love always finds its moment." Amy whispered, "I think it just did." For the first time in years, Rosa felt peace. Not the kind that hides the pain, but the kind that accepts it. The kind that comes when you've waited long enough for forgiveness to come knocking on your door. As dusk deepened, Rosa rocked Michael gently in her arms, humming that same lullaby she once hummed to Lily years ago. The baby sighed, a tiny, content sound. Amy sat beside her, resting her head on Rosa's shoulder. The world outside slowed. The clocks ticked together, steady and in sync, like hearts finding their rhythm again. And Rosa whispered to the night, to herself, to the past. "Time didn't take them from me. It brought them back when we were ready." The old woman smiled, tired, tear-streaked, full of light. And in the quiet her little workshop, surrounded by ticking hearts and golden light, Rosa finally let herself believe that love, no matter how long it takes, always comes home. It's been 6 months since that night. 6 months of lullabies, midnight feedings, and soft laughter echoing through my once quiet house. Little Rosa, they call her Rosie now, has a smile that could melt stone. Every time I hold her, I feel time folding in on itself, like all the broken pieces of my past have gently settled back together. Amy visits almost every day. So mimes she just sit with me in the kitchen, sipping tea while the baby sleeps in her arms. Other times she helps me tend the small garden out back. She laughs when she remembers how I used to scold her for pulling the petals off my roses. We don't talk much about the night I found the letter or the months that followed. We don't need to. The silence between us has changed. It's no longer heavy or cold. It's peaceful. It's the kind of silence that understands. Daniel, Every the peacemaker, built a swing for Emma and a tiny cradle for Rosie in his space-time. He says it helps him feel useful, but I think it's his way of saying thank you for holding his family together when things could have easily fallen apart. Some nights, after everyone's gone home, I sit by the window with Rosie's blanket still warm in my hands. The stars outside seem brighter somehow, like they've been watching all along. I think about the letter, the one I once saw as betrayal. It still sides in the drawer by my bed. I haven't thrown it away. Not because I need to remember the pain, but because it reminds me how far we've come. Forgiveness didn't happen in one moment. It unfolded like dawn, quiet, slow, and certain. And love didn't come back to me in grand gestures or apologies. It came back in small things: a shared laugh, a baby's first smile, the smile of tea steeping on a calm afternoon. Sometimes I think life has a funny way of teaching us. It doesn't hand out easy lessons. It breaks you open, tests what you're made of, and then, if you're going, it follows those cracks with something strong than before. The other day, Emma asked me, "Grandma Rosa, were you ever scared?" I smiled and told her the truth. "Yes, sweetheart, but I learned that culture isn't about not being scared. It's about loving people enough to stay anyway." When I went to bed that night, I left the nursery door open. The faint sound of Rosie's breaking drifted down the hall, soft, steady, alive. And, for the first time in a long, long while, I whispered into the quiet, "Thank you." Because in the end, the letter didn't break my family.